Thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity to be a part of this wonderful course. And the topic given to me is how I deal with my unhappy post-operative patients. I think I will exactly take off from where Dr. Abhay left, in the sense that about the chair time. And the time you spend preoperatively is most important. And the things we emphasize on to these patients is what we are aiming at is not doing away with glasses, but less dependence on glasses. Dysphotopsia is a small price to pay. They invariably, all multifocals come with that. Bilateral surgery is what will give you the best results. A touch-up procedure or an enhancement with a laser or some other device may be necessary to get optimal results. What you get initially may not be your final results. If you wait it out for 3 to 6 months, because of neural adaptation, the chances are that you are going to be much better off. And in just in case, in spite of all the excellent counseling, excellent surgery, wonderful lens that you have put in, if the patient is dissatisfied with the ultimate outcome, these are the 5 C's that I deal with. And today, in the last half a decade or so, once I'm able to address this quite adequately, I find that labeling a patient as a crazy patient just because he or she is complaining, though your optometrist has noted down a 6 in 6 vision is wrong, very often they have a genuine complaint, and now we have the wherewithal to deal with it quite adequately. The most important reason for an unhappy patient is most often a residual refractive error. At the end of 3 months, if there is a residual error, I go ahead and do a transepithelial PRK or LASIK. It's more often a transepithelial PRK because it's smaller errors that you are dealing with. Once you do this, I find that it's not just the requirement for glasses that goes away, but the patient's even the dysphotopsia, the glare, halos, whatever difficulty they have, also goes away. Before that, of course, you have to make sure that the ocular surface is optimized, and that's not the reason for the complaints that the patient has, and it's genuinely the refractive error that is a problem. Just in case the refractive error is quite high, as in this case, came to me operated elsewhere almost 3 years back. It was a post-refractive surgery scenario, and the error was to the extent of about +6 diopters. So obviously, this is the explantation of the lens is out of question because I might disrupt the capsular bag. Already, a YAC capsulotomy has been done. So the simple process of putting in a piggyback lens, where the formula is that for each diopter of hyperopia, you require 1.5 diopters, is a good way to go, and this gives you excellent results. But in case in the immediate post-operative period, you get a suboptimal results. Sometimes, in spite of all the excellence in formulas that we have achieved, sometimes it does happen even today with refractive surgery patients. And today, I have the confidence in some of my refractive surgery patients to even implant a multifocal or a toric intraocular lens. And if I find that the suboptimal result cannot be addressed with the laser or with time, then and if the patient insists, and if I find a different kind of form of IOL power being suggested by the Barrett RX formula, I go ahead and do an IOL exchange. That's fairly easy to do. I wait for about a month's time, and even though it might be a hydrophobic acrylic implant, it's quite often to take out these lenses and exchange them just in case you have a suboptimal outcome. And in the case of toric intraocular lenses, if you have the is residual cylinder that is left over, especially if the spherical equivalent of the residual error is almost zero. That's when the rotation of these lenses will help. And again, you can refer back to the manufacturers, or you could even resort to this again, the toric Barrett RX formula, and that should give you exactly the degree to which it has to be rotated. I just go in with a infusion cannula, no viscoelastic is injected, and then optimally rotate the intraocular lens to its right position. And you owe it to your patients and yourself to get the best of results with these advanced technology lenses. And as far as posterior capsular opacification is concerned, obviously, if it's a thickening like this, none of us would hesitate to go ahead and do a YAC capsulotomy. But if there is a multifocal intraocular lens in the eye, in case you get both eyes are the same patient implanted, you can see the left eye, there is some amount of diaphanous opacification. And obviously, even this can cause a significant deterioration, not just in the quality of vision, but also in the quantity of vision. Sometimes the patient is not happy, complains of a little haziness, can reach 6.6 or 6.6 parts. If you see this 3 to 4 months later, provided you have ruled out ocular surface problem, macular problems, and residual error problems, go ahead and do a yak capsulotomy for these eyes, and quite often you would end up with a satisfied patient. Decentration is something that's not talked about too often, but you can see two eyes of the same patient in this multifocal diffractive lens, and because of the rings, you can make out that the right eye is decentered and left eye is well centered. And even if it's a monofocal lens, a decentration like this would introduce a significant amount of coma. And it's obviously sometimes it occurs because of inappropriate overlap of the rhexis margin. And it's possible to laser hydroplasty has been suggested. I've done just in 2 patients. Too much pigment dispersal generally is not very comfortable for the patient, but it's rotation of the lenses which more often I do. And if at all, it's possible to recenter the lenses by rotating them. Negative dysphotopsia is a complaint that some of our very well done patients do. This is actually a lawyer who was operated by a dear friend of mine. A toric intraocular lens has been placed, an excellent 6/6 refractive outcome. The patient was extremely disturbed by the negative dysphotopsia, and my friend just referred the case to me. And because of it was a toric lens, I did not want to bring it out of the capsular bag, did not want to upset the a very optimal refractive outcome that has been achieved. So went ahead and implanted this piggyback lens with a 0 power in it. And because it has a rounded edge and the square edge of the primary lens has been masked by this lens, almost immediately the dysphotopsia did go away with. You could, of course, do a yak capsulotomy for the edge of the lens also, but I prefer to do this in this case. There have been 3 other cases where I have done with excellent results. So this is one way of dealing with a negative dysphotopsia. And in this situation, you can see the 2 lenses, the primary lens and the secondary lens, both on the slit lamp and on the anterior segment OCT. Do not underestimate the problem of this dryness, ocular surface problem. This lady is going to tell the whole world that she's not comfortable with the surgery, might have an extremely deleterious impact on your surgery. So not just after surgery, but before surgery, even before your optometry, you have to optimize your ocular surface. Just in case it has not happened, the patient is having fluctuating vision, photophobia, fatigue, increased mucous matter, etc. It could be ocular surface problem, and there are various ways of dealing with it. I'm not going to go into it, but then dealing with it is something that's extremely important. And again, post-operatively, I believe less is more. This is the exact prescription that we give to our patients, the printout of the prescription. That's the reason that I'm sorry, the names are mentioned over there, but any equivalent medicines would do well. It's essentially steroid antibiotic just for a period of 2 weeks. NSAIDs continued for 6 weeks, and a lot of carboxymethyl eye drops. And I find that with this regimen, minimalistic application of eye drops with a lot of lubricants, you very often get an optimal outcome. An epiretinal membrane can be as high as 6% in some of our patients. And these are the kind of diseases which our our cataract patients can have, which can have a negative impact as far as the visual outcome is concerned. And these can easily be missed by essentially an anterior segment surgeon. That is the reason, not just for our premium intraocular lens patients, for every patient, we go ahead and do a preoperative OCT. And just in case post-operatively the visual outcome is suboptimal, especially after a reasonably good visual outcome in the earlier period, this could very often be a CME. A retinal consult is necessary. It could be a diabetic maculopathy which has worsened, and appropriate addressing those problems is extremely important. And quite often, the patient comes in saying that I'm very happy with my quality of vision, but then dysphotopsia, a little bit of difficulty in night driving is a problem. I have these simple -2 diopter lenses. I put these lenses onto the patient and tell him, go ahead and try to read now. Yes, you have a little bit of dysphotopsia, but that's a small price that you pay for total spectacle independence. If you want, I can exchange these lenses and give you back a lens which might reduce your dysphotopsia, but then you will end up wearing glasses for reading. Mind you, once I do this, most often the patient says, yeah, dysphotopsia is not much of a problem. I would rather live without glasses, and decides to stay away from any active intervention. I'll just take you through a few case scenarios. You can see over here, I had done a LRCS with a Symphony multifocal intraocular lens. This is essentially to drive home the point. The second eye surgery is a great tool for addressing some of the refractive issues or some of the initial problems that the patient had. Symphony is a great lens, but it's somewhat deficient for near vision. Patient required +1 diopter as far as near vision is concerned. Was not very happy with that. So we actually put in a Technis +4 diopter in the other eye. Bilaterally implanted, the patient was quite happy. Going on to another scenario where this patient just required a +0.5 diopters as far as near vision was concerned. And can it take about a minute and a half, Shail?
Of course, sir. Of course, sir. As long as you want, sir.
Okay. Just about a minute. +0.5 diopters in the other eye. In this case, what exactly we did was did not change the type of the lens, but put in the same Symphony toric lens with Elastiase in the fellow eye, aiming at a target of -0.75. So bilaterally implanted, these patients ended up doing well as far as the ultimate visual outcome is concerned. And that's one of the reasons we always allow at least 2 weeks between the surgery, minimum of 2 weeks between the surgery between the two eyes, and titrate the power in the second eye, titrate the type of lens that we implant depending on the outcome in the first eye. Looking at this case, this was a case which had a significant cylinder, underwent a LRCS with a Symphony toric. The patient was extremely happy with the distance vision outcome, but again, the problem that the near vision was not quite sufficient, required a +1 diopter rad. So what we essentially did was went ahead and did a PanOptix toric in the fellow eye. So once we implanted the trifocal toric, which definitely has a greater capability as far as near vision is concerned, bilaterally implanted, this patient was happy. So mix and match, monovision, etc. is great concepts, and it's only limited by your imagination, the patient's requirements as to how you apply them. This is the ultimate results that we got, so that bilaterally implanted near vision also became a possibility. I think neuroadaptation is both the problem as well as the solution. And it is difficult for us to predict as to which patient is going to neuroadapt and which patient is not going to. So when the patient presents to you with initial complaints, be encouraging to them. Tell them that just like learning cycling, you have to get used to these lenses. Give it about 3 to 4 months. Once you have ruled out that none of the other problems that I alluded to earlier are not there, allow some time, counsel patients, and ultimately you find that majority of the problems that the patients came to you does go away. This is my ultimate slide. This is my final slide and my most important slide. And I think when a patient comes to you with a complaint, it's most often an observation. It's not, they have not come to fight with you. And neither should you become aggressive and say, after all, I counseled you about dysphotopsia earlier. Why the hell are you coming back to me? Just learn to live with it. My approach is that tell them, I understand your problem. If it's you're having glare and halos, that means the lenses are working very well in your eyes. Just give it some time and the problem is going to go away. The patients essentially want to know that you care for them, that you understand their problem, you're concerned about them, and you have the confidence to deal with it. And once you give them that confidence, most often your post-operative outcomes, irrespective of whether it's a premium intraocular lens or not, does go away. Thank you so much for your kind attention.